Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to today's meeting. The Vernon Police Department Honor Guard will lead the flag salute. You all please rise.
Detail. Halt. Left. Hey, that. Halt.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, halt. Both colors. Right. Hey. Forward. Halt. Left. 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 Right. 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 Left. Left.
Thank you. City Clerk, will you please call a roll?
Mayor Ibarra,
Yes, hello.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez,
Present.
Councilmember Larios.
Here.
Councilmember Merlo.
Thank
Here,
you.
you have a
City
quorum.
Clerk, do we have any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
Yeah. I have a motion from Councilmember Lopez and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Davis. City Clerk?
Mayor Ibarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Larios.
Yes.
Councilmember Merlo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we'll take public comments from the members of the audience. If you would like to provide a comment through Zoom, please click the raise hand button. Are there any public comment for anything on the agenda today? Are there any Zoom?
There is none.
Thank you. We'll now go on to presentations. Agenda item number 1 is the swearing in ceremony for various personnel in the police department. Chief Sosa will present the item.
Good morning, Mayor, council members, family, and friends. Usually after new police officers are hired or sworn personnel are promoted, the city council hosts a public swearing-in ceremony for such Vernon Police Department employees and their families. However, due to the coronavirus pandemic, health orders put in place at the onset of the pandemic restricted in-person gatherings, thus limiting the city council to virtual meetings. Although the police department carried on with its normal functions and operations throughout the pandemic, including hiring and promoting personnel as necessary, swearing-in ceremonies were postponed until they could be carried out in person. Over time, there have been several police officers and supervisory level positions vacated due to retirements in the police department. Leaving these positions vacant would negatively impact necessary patrol deployments and would increase overtime costs to cover for the staff shortages. In order to fill these vacancies, the police department, with assistance from the HR department, conducted the necessary recruitment processes. Based on the review of the qualifications of each candidate and the completion of extensive background investigations, it was determined that Andre Arana, Teresa Flores, Cynthia Maciel, and Carlos Saldana were the best qualified candidates to fill the vacant police officer positions. The police department, in conjunction with the HR department, also conducted a promotional examination to establish an eligibility list for the positions of sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. Based on the review of the qualifications for each eligible candidate, it was determined that Anthony Encinas and Lorenzo Gaetan were the best qualified candidates for police sergeant. Gustavo Herrera was the best qualified candidate for the position of police lieutenant, and Brandon Gray was the best qualified candidate for the position of police captain. I now ask that the officers come forward to take the oath of office that will be administered this morning by our city clerk, Lisa Pope.
Good morning.
Good morning. If you could please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Cynthia Maciel. I, Teresa Flores.
I, Lorenzo Gaetan. I, Gustavo Herrera.
I, Brandon Gray.
And then repeat after me. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
I'd be remiss if I didn't welcome a few of our retired staff that is here with us today. I believe I saw Lieutenant Jerry Winiger walk into the room, retired Chief Danny Carreros, and retired Chief Anthony Miranda. These three gentlemen played a role in different aspects of these gentlemen and our ladies' careers from the onset, and that's why they're here to show support for these fine officers that are in front of you today. Before we bring up each officer to have their badges pinned this morning, we are reminded that though it is the officer that wears his or her badge proudly, it is our families that carry the weight of that badge. The weight of long nights, missed family gatherings, and the constant worry that they are safe and on their way back home to them. At this time, I'd like to bring up Officer Teresa Flores. Teresa. And if we can also have Teresa's family come forward. Teresa was born in East Los Angeles and raised in the city of Commerce. Teresa has an associate's degree in administration of justice from Rio Hondo College. Teresa is also a recipient of 2 CHP 10851 awards for her efforts in recovering stolen vehicles, and reminded me just this morning that she is one shy of getting her 3rd award. Teresa graduated from the Rio Hondo Police Academy in February of 2020. Attending today's ceremony is Teresa's father, Gabriel Flores, mother Maria Flores, brother Pablo, and sister Gabriela. Teresa wanted to acknowledge her parents for supporting her when she told them that she wanted to be a police officer. They thought she was crazy. Her father for working 7 days a week for 6 months to help her get through the academy financially, and her mother for waking her up every morning during the academy and never allowing her to quit the toughest times and moments of self-doubt that would come into her head. Pinning Officer Flores's badge today will be her father, Gabriel Flores. Officer Andre Arana, will you come up, please? You got to stand in the middle, Andre, sorry. You're the center of attention this morning. And I'd like to also call up his family at this time. Officer Andre Arana, was born in Arcadia and raised in Laverne, California. Arana graduated from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Academy on May 15th of 2020. Attending today's ceremony is his father, Carlos Arana, and mother, Sandra Arana. Pinning Officer Arana's badge will be his mother, Sandra Arana. And I apologize, I didn't know the brother was going to show up, so yeah, surprise. But his brother is also an officer with the Glendora Police Department, so thank you for coming. Next, I'd like to welcome up Officer Cynthia Maciel. And if her family can come forward also. Cynthia was born in Salinas, California, and raised in Santa Cruz, California. Cynthia graduated from Cal State Long Beach with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and forensic science, and also earned a master's degree in criminology from Cal State Long Beach. Cynthia graduated from the Rio Hondo Police Academy on November 5th, 2020. Attending today's ceremony are her parents, Pete and Gabby Maciel, and her sisters, Jasmine and Carla Maciel. Pinning Officer Maciel's badge will be her father, Pete Maciel. All right, I'd like to call up Officer Carlos Saldana, if you'll come to the front, please. Carlos, if you have to step to the center there. You guys are the center of attention today, sorry. Carlos was born in Guadalajara, Mexico, and raised in Los Angeles. He graduated from John Marshall High School, attended Glendale Community College, where he graduated from the Fire Academy, I don't know why, and the EMT program. Carlos proudly served 8 years in the United States Marine Corps as a member of the Scout Sniper Platoon and is a veteran of 2 overseas deployments, 1 to Iraq and 1 to Southeast Asia. Carlos graduated from the Rio Hondo Police Academy, class 207 in January of 2019. Carlos, I don't think your family's here right now. Okay, unfortunately, they're stuck in traffic, so I will have the honor of pinning your badge. I was just poking some fun at the fire department, kind of a running joke with Carlos. All right, now we're going to start a promotional ceremony, and I'd like to call up Lorenzo, AKA Larry Gayton, please. And if I can call up his family also at this time. Sergeant Gayton was born in Los Angeles and raised in the city of Bell. Sergeant Gayton is a recipient of the department's Merit Award and also earned the Vernon Police Department 2018 Officer of the Year Award. Sergeant Gayton graduated from the Rio Hondo Police Academy in June of 1998 and began his law enforcement career with the city of Vernon. Attending today's ceremony is his wife, Cindy, son, Lorenzo Jr., his daughter, Miley, and his mom, Hortensia. Pinning Sergeant Gayton's badge will be his son, Lorenzo Gayton Jr. And next up, I'd like to call Sergeant Anthony, AKA Tony Encinas. Tony, if you can bring your family up with you also. Tony was born in Los Angeles, California, and raised in both the cities of Los Angeles and Huntington Park. Tony graduated from the Rio Hondo Police Academy, Class 153 on May 25th, 2000, and began his career with the city of Vernon. Tony is a recipient of the Vernon Police Department's 2015 Officer of the Year Award. Attending today's ceremony are Tony's wife, Carol, sons Anthony, Joshua, and Blake, and his best friend, Israel Barrera. Pinning Tony's badge this morning will be his wife, Carol. I'd like to call up Lieutenant Gustavo, AKA Gus Herrera, and his family. Gustavo was born in Glendale, California, and raised in the city of Monrovia. Gustavo graduated from the Rio Hondo Police Academy, Class 155, in December of 2000, and began his career with the city of Vernon. Gustavo holds a bachelor's degree from the California Coast University and has earned the Officer of the Year Award in 2012, and is also a two-time recipient of the CHP 10851 Award for auto theft. Attending today's ceremony is his wife, Martha, their three sons, Isaac, Cruz, and Luke. Also attending are his parents, Elvia and Gustavo Herrera Sr. Pinning Lieutenant Herrera's badge will be his parents. And last and definitely not least is Captain Brandon Gray. If you can come forward with your family, please. AKA, I don't want to say it right now. Captain Gray was born and raised in Lakewood, California, and graduated Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Academy on June 4th, 1999. Captain Gray has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Cal State Long Beach and a master's degree in business administration from California Coast University, and is a recipient of the CHP 10851 Award. Attending today's ceremony is his wife, Jenny, daughter, Jenna, and son, Henry, along with his parents, Alan and Jenny Gray. Pinning Captain Gray's badge today will be his son, Henry. Thank you to everybody. This concludes our oath of office and promotional ceremony. On behalf of myself and the Vernon Police Officers Association, I would like to invite everyone to join us for a light breakfast reception in honor of our staff and their families. That'll take place in the garage area behind the police department. So thank you again. And I know these folks really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and congratulations. We'll pause for a moment while those here for the swearing ceremony leave for their celebration and to allow the grant recipients to come into the chamber. Thank you for your patience. We'll now go on to agenda item number 2 is the report on Vernon Community Fund Grant Committee Awards and Grantee Certificates for fiscal year 2021-22 docket 1. City Clerk Pope will present the item.
Thank you, Mayor. A representative from each of the organizations awarded grants by the Vernon Community Fund Grant Committee at its November 17th, 2021 meeting has been invited here today to be acknowledged as a fiscal year 2021-2022 VCF Direct Service Grant recipient and receive a commemorative certificate. Please come up to the dais as your organization is called, and we will recognize each grantee individually. The first recipient is Alzheimer's Greater Los Angeles. And Efren Moreno, if you could please come forward up front here. And the council, if you could come around to the front of the dais. Just right there in the middle. This grant is in support of its program that provides Spanish-speaking caregiver access to an underserved population in the Vernon area affected by Alzheimer's. Congratulations. Thank you. CA Derby Dolls, and we have Amy, I'm sorry. Thank you. There's a lot of vowels in there. Yes. This grant is awarded in support of its programs focused on physical fitness and community engagement for young girls and women in the Vernon area. Congratulations. Next, we have Sentinel Youth Services. Jessica Ellis is here to receive the award. This grant is in support of its restorative justice programs serving families and businesses in the Vernon area that have been affected by youth offenders. Congratulations. Audrey Silvestri, sorry, and Victoria Gutman are here for Chicas Roqueras. This grant is awarded in support of its arts, education, and mentoring for those in the Vernon area affected by gender injustice. Congratulations. Thank you. Next is the East Los Angeles Women's Center, and we have Veva Lopez and Barbara Capos. Yes, they're coming. This grant is in support of its wraparound services for families in the Vernon area experiencing domestic violence or who are at risk of homelessness. Congratulations. Thank you. Is anyone here from Girl Scouts of Greater Los Angeles? I don't think anyone's here, but their grant is in support of its program that targets social connection and entrepreneurship and leadership for young girls in the Vernon area. Helping Hands Society of Los Angeles, Sheila Lopez, Jose Lopez, Alredo Mejia, and Ariana Lopez. This grant is in support of Helping Hands' effort to address food insecurity by facilitating the distribution of goods to organizations working with low-income residents in the Vernon area. Congratulations. Chelsea Moturn from LA Family Housing. This grant is awarded in support of its efforts to provide permanent housing for those in the Vernon area who are at risk of or who are experiencing homelessness. Congratulations. Las Fotos Project, Allison Morales and Lucia Torres, please come forward. This grant is awarded in support of its programs that focus on the arts, related training and employment for girls in the Vernon area interested in photography. Congratulations. Andy Molina with Southeast Churches Service Center. This grant is in support of its numerous programs that include the provision of food, housing, and health services for families in the Vernon area. Congratulations. Southeast Community Development Corporation, we have Guadalupe Ramirez and Mike McCormick here to receive the award. I'm sorry, Emma Hernandez. Thank you. And Guadalupe Ramirez. Thank you. This grant is in support of its programs that bridge the digital divide by addressing computer and technology literacy among unserved families in the Vernon area. Congratulations. I don't believe anyone is here from the Southeast Los Angeles Collaborative, but their grant is in support of its programs that offer technical assistance and organizational development support for nonprofits in Southeast Los Angeles. And finally, we have Woodcraft Rangers, Christy Moody and Julie Brooks are here to receive the award. This grant is in support of its summer camp experience and outdoor skill building adventures that expose youth in the Vernon area to nature, science, and STEM-based activities. Congratulations.
congratulations to all the docket 1 recipients. Let's move on to agenda item number 3, the city administrator report. City Administrator Fendino will present the item.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I believe we have a presentation. So the topics I'll be discussing today will be new business welcome, citywide property maintenance code enforcement efforts, the Pink Patch Project, Sanitation District's Facility of the Year Award nomination, the blood drive, and the COVID-19 mobile vaccination efforts, and then finally, the community outreach. So from October through the present, the city issued 8 certificates of occupancy to new businesses located in Vernon. The slide represents a few of the new enterprises. Vernon continues to attract a variety of industries. So moving on to citywide property maintenance and code enforcement efforts. The overall plan is for Public Works to take the lead in the maintenance of the city property and encourage property owners to join in collaborative effort. Key aspects of the area include homelessness, encampments, homelessness in the general, graffiti, trash, railroad spur cleanup, zoning code enforcement, and public engagement. In partnership with Vernon Police Department, Public Works has been actively pursuing cleanup of the rail property. So far, there have been numerous cleanup events where a visible difference has been made. Staff has developed a targeted plan and assigning zones to address areas requiring attention. Additionally, staff dedicated to code enforcement has been hired, allowing the city to consistently have eyes on the operations and ensure that businesses are in compliance with the maintenance and properties to meet the appropriate standards. The city's first National Cleanup Day event was hosted this year with a goal to promote public engagement and pride within the city. Events like these will be hosted in the future. Included in the city's cleanup efforts are removal of debris, overgrown vegetation, and graffiti. Personnel, equipment, and time have been dedicated to cleanups possible. The rail properties often accumulate trash and may house individuals experiencing homelessness. Recent efforts have tackled these problem areas. The next 2 photos show the dramatic after photos of a cleanup. So here you have the before, and then here you have the after. So moving on to the Pink Patch Project. During the month of October, the Vernon Police Department joined more than 390 public safety agencies throughout the United States in the Pink Patch Project, which innovative public awareness campaign designed to bring attention to the fight against breast cancer and to support breast cancer research organizations in combating this devastating disease. The wearing of the uniform patch is a vibrant pink and is intended to stimulate conversation with the community to encourage public awareness and the importance of early detection and treatment in the fight against breast cancer. This year, $255,000 was raised to support the City of Hope. Sanitation District's Facility of the Year Award nomination. VPU was recently nominated for Facility of the Year for preventive pollution, preventive stormwater by the Los Angeles County Sanitation District. The prestigious award is given to California Water Environment Association, known as CWEA organization, which recognizes efforts and performance in industrial waste minimization, pollution prevention practices, and stormwater runoff programs, to name a few. 2 nominations were received: large industry category for recycled water and wastewater treatment infrastructure at the Malberg Generating Station, and small industry category for well-maintained water operations that include operating check of premise and equipment and effective preventive measures in place to concrete containment to minimize the impact of environment caused by wastewater. VPU will be notified by CWEA on February 1st, 2022, if we are awarded the Facility of the Year award for the small industry category. So the blood drive to support Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, the Department of Health and Environmental Control, and Vernon Police Department coordinated a blood drive here at City Hall on September 30th. A total of 36 donations were received. Each month, Children's Hospital must collect 2,000 units of blood products to meet the needs of patients. Each donation helps 2 children. The COVID-19 mobile vaccination efforts. At the request of Assembly Member Santiago, the city's health department staff and Stacy Medical administered COVID-19 booster shots to senior citizens at the Hollenbeck Terrace Apartments in Boyle Heights. A thoughtful thank you email was received in response to the city's visit. On-site delivery of booster doses was much appreciated. In total of 55 senior citizens were vaccinated. This year's Halloween Spooktacular Community Outreach event did not disappoint. The event took place on October 28th, 2021 at the City Hall lawn. Special activities, pumpkin giveaways, trick-or-treating, and giant inflatable slide, raffle prizes, and food, drinks, and dessert were offered to all attendees. So we'll move on to community outreach, and here's some pictures. The community outreach. So Operation Gobble Gobble on Saturday, November 20th, Supervisor Solis again hosted her 2021 Operation Gobble Gobble and distributed turkeys to various charitable organizations serving the first district. This year, the city of Vernon showed its support for the community by serving a sponsor and providing approximately 1,000 turkeys for the local distribution event in Commerce. City staff will continue to work with Supervisor's office regarding any future opportunities to assist with the supervisor's effort to serve the local community. Tree delivery was also sent to the Vernon Elementary School. So the tree lighting event on Vernon's 2021 community tree lighting ceremony was a success. On Thursday, December 2nd, the city's grassy lawn was transformed into a winter wonderland, courtesy of the Vernon Business Arctic Glacier. The city provided coffee, hot chocolate, and sweet treats for all attendees. It was a great evening with the community. And then we'll continue to share photos with on social media. And that's all I have for today.
We'll now go on to public hearing. Agenda item number 4 is a public hearing regarding the permanent local housing allocation application to the Department of Housing and Community Development. Staff recommends continuing the hearing to the special meeting on the City Council at 8:45 a.m. on December 15th, 2021. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll move, Lopez.
May I have a second? With a motion from Councilmember Lopez and a second from Mayor Pro Tem Davis. City Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Yeah, the motion is to continue the public hearing to the special meeting of the City Council at 8:45 a.m. on December 15th, 2021. Mayor Ibarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Larios.
Yes.
Councilmember Merlo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll now go on to consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be approved with one motion. Items may be removed from the consent calendar by any members of the council. Those items removed will be considered immediately after the consent calendar. Does council wish to pull any items from the consent calendar? Are there any public comments for the consent calendar?
There's none on Zoom.
None on Zoom. Okay, may I have a motion for the consent calendar, items number 5 through 17?
I move.
May I have a second?
I'll second Lopez.
That sounds like a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Davis and a second from Councilmember Lopez. City Clerk?
To
Approve consent calendar items 5 through 17. Mayor Ibarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Larios.
Yes.
Councilmember Merlo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we'll go on to new business. Agenda item number 18 is the amendment to Vernon Municipal Code, Chapter 22, to regular sidewalk vendors. Public Work Director Wall will present the staff report. Director Wall?
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, the ordinance before you will amend the Vernon Municipal Code to regulate sidewalk vendors. The ordinance was originally presented to the City Council at the October 5th meeting where concerns including overall cost incurred by vendors, time of day restrictions on vendors near schools, and penalty amounts were voiced by council members. The ordinance was returned to the November 2nd City Council meeting where the council provided direction on insurance, fingerprinting and background checks, time of day and location restrictions, and penalties. The ordinance before you follows the direction provided by the council at the November 2nd meeting. Major points of the ordinance include vendors must provide proof of liability insurance. First-time vending applicants must undergo a fingerprinting background check. Immigration status will not be used or disclosed by the city to any other governmental agency. Vendors shall not sell alcohol, cannabis, tobacco, or adult-oriented material. Vending adjacent to residential uses is limited to the hours of 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. Vending is not allowed within 500 feet of a school during the period from 1 hour before the start of classes to 1 hour after the end of classes. State registered sex offenders are not allowed within 500 feet of a school at any time. And violations of the ordinance start with a written warning for a first offense, and increase is allowed by state law for subsequent offenses. Staff, upon further reflection and in keeping with best practices to facilitate the enforcement of this ordinance, recommends the City Council review the location-specific regulations and suggest prohibiting sidewalk vending within 500 feet of schools and residential uses. If the City Council concurs, the following changes are proposed to the ordinance. And we're passing out those proposed changes to the council in a written form, and I'll go over them once you have something to look at. So again, if the City Council concurs with those changes on tightening up the restrictions, this is what the proposed changes would be. Ordinance section 5.4 in the findings, we would strike the following: limit sidewalk vendors' hours of operation within areas adjacent to residential zones, and then we would continue prohibit stationary sidewalk vending in areas zoned exclusively, and then we would add and adjacent residential to protect the safety of vendors and residents and to promote the welfare of residents by prohibiting commercial activities and associated noise and traffic during hours and in zones wherein residents can and should expect peace and quiet. The next proposed change would be to ordinance section 5.5 in the findings. What this change would include would be adding vending after any sidewalk and striking vendor who is a state registered sex offender. The reason why we would do this is if we prohibited vending within 500 feet of schools at any time, then we could strike the sex offender language. Also, changes to the code to section 22.240, part B. We would change sidewalk vending and add within 500 feet of adjacent uses, and we could strike within 500 feet of residential uses, we could strike adjacent to and limited to the hours could also be stricken. And we would add the word prohibited. For part E, we would strike during the period extending from 1 hour before the start of classes and 1 hour after the end of classes. So this would in effect prohibit vending within 500 feet of schools at all times. And then we would strike G in its entirety. A copy of these proposed changes is in front of you, and this concludes my report. Are there any questions? I'm sorry, if I may, one more thing. So if we have this prohibition at all times at the schools, we would also be able to strike the fingerprinting and background check provisions because they would no longer, they would become mute at that point. We wouldn't need them at all. This concludes.
Okay, this was a lot to digest. If you give us a minute to
Sure.
review what the changes were, and there's copies on the front table if you'd like a copy. Ordinance section 5.4, where is it at?
So that is in the staff report. Is under findings.
It's on page 2 of the ordinance. The 4th paragraph down, number 5.
I have a question. For section 22.240, item B, when it says sidewalk vending within 500 feet of residential use is prohibited, is that just for stationary or can the
That
moving?
that would be for all vendors.
So there's no like moving vendor allowed by like the apartments
So,
or?
so how the enforcement on that would work is that a vendor could pass through there, but they wouldn't be, I mean, if my code enforcement officer saw them vending within 500 feet, they would be asked to move.
Could we do it so that it's only stationary and not like let's say an example, like ice cream truck or the people that just walk by with their good.
So that's at the council's direction, whatever the council would like to.
Do you guys have an opinion on it?
Yeah, I think that would be fine because moving vendors, I think is fine. Now, also, I have a question in terms of registered sex offenders. So that means that beyond the 500 feet from the school, they would be allowed to have their stationary or moving vending.
So that's how it was in the original language of the code as well. So the prohibition on a registered sex offender has been they're not allowed within 500 feet of the school. And it had been during hours. Let me see.
What about the residential community? Would they be allowed near there? Because there's children that.
Yes,
fine.
so that has been, the ordinance is written as silent on that. If there is the prohibition, the recommendation for the changes to the ordinance would prohibit anyone from vending within 500 feet. So that would, as it's written right now, that would be stationary as well as moving.
No, but
And
what
it-
about residential?
The proposed changes that I brought forward just now are residential and schools.
Okay.
So B is residential, C is school. I'm sorry, B and E. B is residential,
B
E is
is,
school.
yes, that's right.
Okay. And what about throughout the city?
I would defer to legal counsel if we can have a blanket prohibition against sex offenders.
I think the findings would have to be reworded to, and I pulled the section that was more general. So I believe there's a finding to ensure the safety of residents and the merchantability of products sold by vendors without a fixed place of business. The city requires all first-time sidewalk vending applicants to undergo fingerprinting background check. I think we could apply that to all first-time applicants. We just need to make clear, the rationale, sort of the public purpose for requiring that finding. If we are not allowing any vendors within school adjacent or residential adjacent areas, that would just have to be amended to make clear that it's for all first-time applicants in order to protect the health and safety of the public.
What section was that part you read?
So would we be able to include for the entire city?
Yeah, I think.
I
yeah.
think the safety of employees, visitors, everybody within the city should
People
be,
that are walking
it should be a
through.
blanket.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The section that I was quoting from was 22.220 sub D, the general sidewalk vending permits that references the background check.
Mm. On page 5.
Yes, page 5.
Mhm. Is that something that we can do, like a blanket that, is that something we're allowed to say, like, we refuse, or we have the right to refuse service to sex offenders in our city, or?
Well,
is
the
that-
legal standard for these types of ordinances and all the ordinance are just that any restrictions, any time, place, or manner restrictions be tied to a legitimate public purpose. I can't recall off the top of my head if I've seen any, and Dan, I don't know if you've seen any background check requirements or fingerprint requirements that are tied to general, vending as opposed to school or residential
Yeah.
restrictions.
Yeah, I've only seen sex offender restrictions for residential and or school uses. And most of them have just been in vicinity of schools. They weren't even, they didn't even include the residential.
What we could do is include this revised language, and between now and the second reading, if it turns out that there isn't precedent for it, or if it doesn't seem like something that's legally justifiable, we would come back with that recommendation. But I think another, justification for it is given the small size of the city, the fact that
Mhm.
there is very great proximity of residential and school, we're 5 square miles. I think it's a little bit different than some of the jurisdictions that regulate separately. So that would be my recommendation, if that's council's direction, to make it a blanket requirement regardless of restrictions on school or residential, that we include it. And then if there's a reason not to include it, we'll advise at the next reading.
Please add it. Is that okay with council?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
So with the consensus of staff, let's add that portion to it. There was a section in here where they do the applications and they do background checks. When they renew their license, can we do a continuous background check on everything annually?
Okay.
Just to make sure that they're not part of that, that sex offender, or there is any issues that they're not supposed to be. So
Okay.
if we could change that to annually. I'm
Yeah,
just trying to
because that
find
can
that.
change at any
Yeah,
time.
anything can change at any time. So every annual, like when they come and renew their license, they also have to renew that. Since these are walking vendors and
Mhm.
they're station vendors, they're not a company. We need to keep on safety of that part.
Okay.
But I'm trying to find the section. I had it written here, but I don't know where the section is. I believe it's the application process part.
I think it's page 4.
I'm trying to, I have it here, but I think I
It's-
wrote the note in the wrong
It-
area.
It's on page 5, and it's D. Under D, it says, first time sidewalk vending applicants to undergo fingerprinting background checks. So we could remove first
First
time
time.
and we work on the language to make sure that it's part of the annual renewal.
Correct.
So it would be for all vendor applicants annually.
Annually, yes. And then I'm having issues with the whole housing part of it, the wording of it, because you just have as and adjacent residential. Adjacent to, so that zoned exclusively and adjacent to, so that word to goes here. Does that cover as well the non-conformant residential area?
Yes, so if you look at section 22.240 under B, it says sidewalk vending within 500 feet of residential uses is prohibited.
Okay,
And
so uses is gonna
Uses-
cover that.
Uses would cover whether it's conforming, non-conforming, it's irrelevant of zoning.
Okay, now going into, I understand the walking vendors, but the stationary vendors, is there a way we can centralize it and limit it just for safety, traffic safety, pedestrian safety? How are they allowed to station and where do you have it zoned at?
So they're allowed to be throughout the city except where it's prohibited. So the prohibition would be residential areas and school areas. The state's a little locked down about just saying that vendors can only be located in a specific zone. So this would be citywide. They're not allowed on sidewalks that are narrower than 6 feet, and they're not allowed to set up where they restrict the ability to go to have a 48-inch clearance. They also are prohibited from blocking entrances to businesses or residents or any city facility. So that's the type of general prohibition we have, but we can't say you can only be within this particular area.
Okay, so can you just, because I have to picture it in my head, where is it prohibited in the city? If you can just say a
Sure.
street in between what street?
So right now it's prohibited within, the way this is written, within 500 feet of the school. So if we go to the edge of the properties of the school, it's prohibited within 500 feet of the school. It's prohibited within 500 feet of the edge of any residential in the city. So it'd be 500 feet on either side of Furlong. It'd be 500 feet on either side of the houses on Fruitland. It would extend to across the street on Fruitland because that's shorter than 500 feet. So they wouldn't be allowed to be in that area. Similarly with Vernon and similarly with the 50th Street apartments. And then also we'd apply the same standard to the Vernon Village.
Okay, how about business area? If you can tell me
So-
what's
so-
narrow and what's wide.
Well, what's wide, an example, most of Santa Fe is wide.
Okay.
Some of the streets that are on the eastern part of the city, some of the narrow streets that go east-west, some of those have sidewalks that are only, that are not 6 feet wide. So we wouldn't be able to have vendors there.
So I'm just out of memory, vendor, there's a fruit vendor there and around that area. Is that wide enough on Bandini?
I can't answer that.
Okay. I'm just trying to
Right.
picture what's the width of the street that you're allowing street vendors to be on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't honestly answer that.
Okay, and maybe this is a health question, but since some will be stationed vendors, what are the facilities? Where are their facilities at? What's the common practice for that? Are we just leaving it blank or, what facility use?
Yes, so we do require the vendors to have a mobile health. If they're selling food, they need a mobile health permit from the health department. As far as what the requirements of that permit are, I don't know. Maybe Freddie.
Is that like a food handler?
No, food handler is a little different. That's for somebody
Okay.
that's working in, that would be for an employee, but a mobile vendor permit requires that the cart that they're using have been screened by a health department somewhere within California. That's one of the requirements. And then there are other requirements regarding temperature of foods, the type of food that's served. I do not know the specifics. I just know that for food vending, we would require that a license be provided by the health department.
I know,
And that
but
would entail inspections.
my question is more towards
Restroom.
stationed vendors, restroom use, because in other cities, these sidewalk vendors are near a restaurant where they can use a restroom or a store. We don't have that facility here. So if you're allowing it blanket through the city, where will they be using the restroom? So that's the reason why it goes back to location on where you're allowing these street vendors to be at. So what is there a rule that we can, maybe it's a legal rule, we can limit it to they're on the street for 8 hours, you have to use the restroom somewhere.
Food trucks are regulated differently than what we're talking about here, though, correct?
Yes, although this would still be a mobile vendor since they don't have a permanent location.
So we're talking mobile vendor, fruit guy, ice cream guy, someone selling just hats on the street. You're
Well,
saying
the-
sidewalk vendor,
the-
it's a blanket.
Right, so the people selling hats on the street would not be required, they wouldn't trigger health department oversight.
I know, but in general, this is a vendor that's gonna be stationed in a street. Facility uses for them.
Mhm.
Are they gonna use in between a car, a bucket in between the car? Are they gonna try to go into a business and use the restroom? That's what I want to know. Is there, maybe the health department has this answer, because I see him antsy in his seat. We're not like other cities that you have that accessibility.
Good morning. So it depends what they're doing. There's a 200 feet restroom requirement that they have to meet based on what they're doing. Like, are they prepping? Is it prepackaged? So those are things we'll ask them when they come to get a permit. And that's the stipulation. So one of them is they need to get a letter or something from a business that they will let them use on that restroom if it's within that area. So those are the questions we have to ask. But I just want to note that just because they have the letter doesn't mean they won't go behind,
Right.
the truck or whatever. That's just a letter saying they're allowed to use it.
Okay, and where is it stated at?
You stay in the food code.
It
We
is in
got
the
the
food
health and
code.
safety code.
Okay, so we're talking about like a fruit vendor and ice cream vendor, but now I'm talking about, you're saying sidewalk vendors. It's a blanket for anybody who's gonna station and put their product up and sell. So it may not be a food vendor. So what is the policy for that?
So if it's not food, it doesn't fall under our purview.
So if it's non-food and they're committing a public nuisance, then they'd be cited for a public nuisance.
Okay, and where does it say that here?
We currently have code that prohibits public nuisances.
Okay,
So essentially, any violations that are not specifically codified here, we have a whole code enforcement ordinance that would apply.
just want to clarify that. Thank you.
And then I have a question, picking back off on Mayor Ibarra. The 500 feet, can we check to see, because since our city is so tiny, would that prohibit vending in, most of our streets, I would like to know, because maybe that needs to be changed to less,
So
because then that might not allow any vendors at all, because if they're not gonna meet the 500-foot requirement.
So when we bring this back, I'll have a radius map that shows the zones that would be within 500 feet of all known housing and the school.
Okay,
And when staff was discussing this, I believe that question came up, and it was, I believe, felt that there was still going to be sufficient area that
But-
would not be prohibited.
Yes, but like I said, we'll bring back a map for next time.
I kind of mapped it on Google, so it's like the front of the school at Vernon to the edge of my house is 250 feet. And 500 feet would be up to the rag company that's next door. So that's about 250 feet. So it's sufficient. Okay. I have a question. Section 22.250 violation penalties. Now, my understanding is the first ones are written, which is great. Second one's $250, third one's 500. Going into the fourth one, it's $1,000 for each additional violation within 1 year of the second violation. So what if they don't care and they continue to do it again, and they do it again, and they do it again? At what point do we stop? Or at what point does it become a nuisance that we're, at what point is it enough?
Right, and this is for vendors that do not have permits. So the state code, we're beholden to state code for this. So state code has said that this is the maximum that we can have for enforcing street vending. Street vending is no longer a criminal offense, and the state has dictated what the penalties can be.
Okay. And then on section B in the same section 22.250, In B, number 5, the Public Works Director may rescind a sidewalk vendor permit for the remaining term of the permit upon a fourth or substantial violation. Can we remove the word may and you will rescind?
Yes, we could have shall to replace, would shall be?
I
appropriate?
like, I mean, from the, legal construction side of things for ordinances, I prefer to have some discretion on the part of the city, just in case this is, a situation where we're pursuing additional enforcement action. This is coupled as part of some other enforcement package, and maybe the Public Works Director is pursuing a public nuisance violation and wants to pursue that, and we aren't using this leg of it. I tend to prefer may versus shall, just for that reason, just to give us some flexibility in terms of enforcing it. We certainly can if that's the direction, but we always try to plan for the unknown. And may tends to be a little bit more flexible for the unknown.
Okay. So that we'll keep that. Then.
Yeah, man.
May gives you more flexibility. Are there any questions from council or any additional changes?
No, I just want to say thank you for taking into consideration all the things that we discussed that earlier.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go on to public comment on this item. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up. On item 18, we'll take public comment on item number 18. Please state your name as well, any affiliation you have with the city.
Good morning. My name is Susie Ybarra. I'm a resident of Vernon. I did have a chance to read the ordinance. The updates I'm still digesting. However, I want to thank Dan Moll again. He did a wonderful job in putting it all together. But I still have issues, and you brought it up, which I thought was great. I have a problem with, and I'm going to reference your updates first, and then I'll go to my document. In your adjacent residential, I have a problem with that because that's right next to our property and not in front of our property or whatever. I want it state what the council has assigned our property as non-conforming. I want non-conforming in there someplace. I don't think the council should approve the document when not all residents are addressed. For ordinance 5.5 findings, you want to take out sex offenders. I have a problem with that. And the reason I have a problem with that is because that's one of the biggest problems. Near a school, by a school, on the way to school, there are kids that are walking from Alameda, the other side of Alameda, walking through the street to the school. And outside of 500 feet, I mean, if you took that out, or if you took the fact out that you're not going to search for sex offenders, they may come in. So I hope the council decides to put a totally separate line about sex offenders, because of street vendors are no problem to us. What the problem is to the city are the people who use the vending. Their right now, people come and we're a pass through. They catch another bus, they wait for something else. But now what you're doing is putting vendors where people are now going to stay around, eat whatever, oh, I need more money, maybe they need to do something, I don't know. But I have a problem with the 500 feet there, and I really don't want them close to the kids. I didn't understand why you took off the time limited on 22.24. You took off the time, if you can restate that when I sit down, if you like. And then you took out 1 hour before and 1 hour after end of classes. Classes may start at a certain time, but there's some schools that will take care of the kids before class starts, and they let the kids drop off an hour before. So I would suggest that, and Vernon City is one school that does have an hour before and an hour after class session. Let's see. Okay. Okay, you talked a little bit about mental, so I know that will cover the COVID issue that I had a little concern with.
Oh, that was 3 minutes. I'm sorry. Would council allow for further comments?
That's fine.
Is that okay, council? Further than 3 minutes? Yes.
Oh, sorry about that, I
Allow it.
forgot. The violation penalty, I know you said it's something with the county or whatever, but this is the first time it's being involved in the city. Anybody coming to the city, anybody participating in the city has to follow the rules. So why can't we be the Vernon that says, to get your license, this is what you need? And okay, I'll give you another chance. We'll try here, we'll try there, but I don't want to be the city to have this thing lasting because it's an expense to the city. If I think it should be rescinded sooner. If you want to do this, go to another city and do it. But in Vernon, you will comply with our rules. I just don't think you should be so lenient. I have a problem with that one. I have ordinance, doesn't include, but I couldn't find it, but I'm assuming that you do have it. Doesn't address the trucks or the non-food sidewalk vendors. So in your conversation, if you can tell me where I could find that. And then what if you find that you have to approve it and move forward? I want you guys to think about adding a vendor information site on your website so that if we go on, we can look at this vendor, see what they're supposed to do. We should be aware. And also, I want to know how to report a violation. Once we see, we can go on the website, we could write what the violation is, and then I expect you to follow it up. I don't think council should approve this ordinance as written. However, if you do choose to sign or approve this, I want you to consider the budget constraints that are going to be added later. And I think it should be approved before we move forward. I think we need increased police, not for the street walkers. It's for the people who are going to be lingering in the city when they buy things or whatever they do. I'm safe now. Vernon has worked very hard to keep the city clean and safe. And now you're adding, not you personally, now you're adding street vendors. Now we have to handle the consequences that come with people just walking the streets and buying whatever they want to buy. I'd like to see increased police to manage the lingering that may occur in the city. We have enough police now to make us feel safe. You add another job in their list of things they have to do. I'd like to see that increase. I want an increase in public works or traffic engineering. I'm not sure where this would fall, to monitor the enforcement of what you're telling the street people to do. Somebody's got to watch them. Like right now, there is a vendor at the corner of Santa Fe and Pacific. There's a few people who didn't even know he was there. It's so easy for them to come up with it, but if you have police driving and you have people coming to work and not being able to see it. The caveat there is that if you do hire these people, they've got to do your job. The city has had a problem enforcing their parking on their own property. How can we trust you guys to handle the things that you put into the city? The other thing, which I'm glad the mayor mentioned, was sanitation stations. Walking or whatever, I have seen people go to the bathroom in companies' bushes, in the trash can, in the back of the lots. Why report it to the cops when they're gone? I mean, how are they going to find that person again? You know, it's a gross thing to look at, and to think that I have to clean around something that somebody did is gross.
I'm sorry, Ms. Ibarra, we're gonna have to stop you now.
Okay.
If I recommend staff, if you can sit with her and discuss the issues and get back with her questions.
I just hope that you guys don't vote at this time. Thank you.
Are there any further public comment on this item?
There's nothing on Zoom.
Thank you. At this time, you have a list of changes to be made. With these changes, can you address the changes and return to us?
Yes.
And some of the concerns that Ms. Ibarra was discussing, my motion would be to just hold off on another reading until these questions and concerns are answered. City Council, do you have any questions regarding the statements that were made or any follow-ups you'd like to make?
I think most of the statements she brought up, we've discussed previously, and I think she just needs a little more clarification, and if we could communicate those to her, that way it'll put her at ease. Thank you so much for sharing your insight on it. We appreciate it.
Great. At this time,
So
what-
Mayor, before you, at the direction of council, then what we'll do is we'll sit down with Ms. Ibarra and go through the ordinance. Is council comfortable with that?
Yes.
Just discuss it, but definitely not make any.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got it.
With all the questions that council asked, if with the motion and the changes, may I get a motion to proceed with the changes that are requested at this time?
The changes that council.
That's the motion.
I'll second.
City Clerk?
Motion by Councilmember Ilario, seconded by Councilmember Merlot to meet with Ms. Susie Ibarra and bring back the proposed changes as suggested by council.
No, the motion was with our suggested changes to come back to council on the next meeting. But the direction was for admin and Director Wall to sit with Ms. Ibarra and discuss the concerns. And if there were clarifications that needed to be made and justified to be.
I think we would
Right.
need clarification on whether or not we're going to approve the first reading.
Well, it's
Is it
not
the
approved because
intention?
we asked for changes. There's some changes and
Okay,
edits.
so
So
then
we're
what we'll
asking
do
for
is-
you to do the changes and come back on the next meeting with the proposed changes.
Okay, then I don't think.
So
a
that
motion-
was the direction, but the request was to sit with Ms. Ibarra to address her issue.
So
I
let-
think a lot of what she brought up was what we discussed, like the non-conforming and stuff like that.
So
We
there's
had
two
discussed.
parts to it. The motion is to do the changes that we're asking for. So the ordinance is not approved right now until these changes that we are asking for are changed.
So if I could clarify, the motion is to direct staff to bring back an ordinance, including the proposed amendments as presented by Director Wall, allowing the city attorney to look into the blanket background check issue and adding that if appropriate.
The annual checks needs to be changed.
Well, the city attorney needs to review that portion.
Uh-huh.
So those will be modified. So it's the proposed, as presented by Director Wall, and then related to the background check and all first time, changing it to annually. But the city attorney is going to look into that. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then I would like to see about the 500.
And we're going to bring back
The
a radius map.
clarification of the radius map.
Okay. Is that your motion, Councilmember Larios?
And the other items that we had discussed. So
Yes.
Dan Wall has the list that he's been taking notes on.
Yes, the changes.
The changes. So it's not approved for a second reading. We're asking for
I understand. We're
via
going to bring back
changes,
an
and we're
ordinance. I
bringing
just
it
want to
back.
make sure that staff knows what those changes are.
Are we all in agree with that motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Ibarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Larios.
Yes.
Councilmember Merlot.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 19, our at-will employment agreement for Assistant General Manager of Generation and Operation and Utilities Operation Manager. Human Resources Director Earl will present the staff report.
Good morning, Mayor and members of City Council. With the pending purchase of the power plant, the positions of Assistant General Manager of Generation and Operations and Utility Operations Manager were created and designated as non-classified, which are subject to an at-will employment agreement. The first agreement is to appoint Richard Olson as the Assistant General Manager of Generation and Operations. The terms are consistent with the city's standard at-will employment agreement with 2 exceptions. Since Mr. Olson will be relocating his residence from the state of Maryland to Southern California, the agreement provides reimbursement for moving expenses as approved by the city administrator and provides a very short-term temporary housing assistance. With city council approval, this appointment would be effective as of today's date. The second agreement appoints Matthew Richards as the utility operations manager. Mr. Richards is currently the director of operations for MGS under its current owner. Mr. Richards would be transferring to city employment as with other MGS personnel effective December 15th, 2021, following the close of the sale of the plant. The terms of the at-will agreement with Mr. Richards are consistent with the city's standard agreement for management personnel. Both agreements have been reviewed and approved as to form by the city attorney's office, and the costs associated with these positions have been included in the previous budget projections for the power plant operation and will be incorporated into the public utilities budget. And that concludes my report. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council at this time?
No.
No? May I have a motion for item number 19?
I'll move.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
With the motion from Councilmember Lopez and the second from Councilmember Merlot, City Clerk, may I call the roll?
To approve and authorize the city administrator to execute at-will employment agreements for Assistant General Manager of Generation and Operations and Utilities Operations Manager. Mayor Ibarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Larios.
Yes.
Councilmember Merlot.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go on to our report. City Administrator Fandino, do you have any reports?
I do, your Honorable Mayor. So the city recently learned of an opportunity to sponsor the Dodgers Foundation Dreamfield project at Maywood Park. A Dodgers Dreamfield that is such a close proximity to Vernon, accessible to those that live and work in Vernon and its surrounding communities. It's such a wonderful concept. We are excited to contribute $75,000 to the Maywood Park project. Through its Dodgers Dreamfield program, the Dodgers Foundation builds and refurbishes baseball and softball fields for existing local parks and recreation sites across Los Angeles to ensure that the youth communities have access to more safe, vibrant spaces to play while giving families a safe haven. The Rio Vista YMCA and members will see the direct benefits as well as the site is utilized by our YMCA partners. Mary Barra will be speaking at the official groundbreaking ceremony for the Maywood Dreamfield project on December 15th. If any council members wish to attend, please let my office know and we'll make appropriate arrangements. Holiday events. The city's holiday celebration for 2021 continues into next week. The following events are upcoming. On December 11th, we have the Huntington Park Holiday Parade. On December 14th, we have the soccer ball giveaway, which will be at Vernon Elementary. On December 15th, we'll have the drive-through Operation Santa and Light Show here at City Hall. And then on December 16th, we have the Rio Hyundai Luncheon at Stevens Steakhouse. And then obviously we have the holiday Christmas party, which will be at the local DoubleTree Hotel. So please feel free to contact my office if you have any questions or if you want to go to any of these events, and we'll schedule you accordingly. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you, City Administrator Fandino. Are there any reports from council at this time? No, with-
Actually, I have I don't know if this is like out content, but we had a meeting maybe like 2 meetings ago where a business owner came in and talked about like us doing the cleaning, and then he actually asked for help. Is there any way that we can get like in contact with him or anything, see like a follow-up?
We have been in contact with the business
Okay.
owner and I can provide a written report, which I'll provide this Thursday night in my update,
okay.
and I'll send it to the city council.
Okay, then perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any further comments from council? I did have a comment from a couple of businesses in Huntington Park, and they said, thank you very much to our public works, our police department for cleaning up the rail areas in the adjacent to Huntington Park and Vernon. They were very grateful for what we have done, and it made a big difference. So I'm passing along the thank you to the city and the staff. And that's it. If there are any further questions or comments from council, we'll now go on to closed session item for agenda items number 20 and 22. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Can I get a break?